More on in-app account deletion, abandoned accounts, and a piece of new audio hardware. This is Mac Voices. This edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by the MacVoices Slack, available to all patrons of Mac Voices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the third and final part in a recent Mac Voices live conversation. We pick up in the middle of our discussion of in-app account deletion and why it may or may not be a good idea. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking.
Well, I think, if it's an app that's got a subscription that I think this is like services, it's not the app because the app would have to be subscribed through Apple's mechanism, and Apple already has an unsubscribe mechanism. So this would be like if there's some service that you're signed up for through the company's payment system, not through, so you give your credit card, like a gym membership. If you can sign up to the gym membership through the app, then you have to be able to unsign up from the app. So I'm not sure how many things this covers, because probably most of those things don't even, have a button in their app. They just, would have it on the website or something. So, this is still going to be a problem because there's lots of places that do this on, like say, this would be like the New York Times. And I think that might even be an example. Like, isn't it difficult to get off the New York Times?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not that difficult. I've canceled. But they beg you to come back, and they offer like $1 a week and try to really entice you to. The Wall Street Journal does it too. I was subscribing because they were giving me that $4 a month deal, and then I would get towards the end of the deal, and then I would cancel, and then they say, "Oh, if you really want to come back, here's this offer," and then all of a sudden the $4 deal is back again. I'm like, okay,
right,
yeah. Jim, I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look, but I feel pretty confident that I have apps that require me to create an account with the publisher that are not paid for. There's nothing paid for. There's no subscription fee, and not even necessarily in-app purchases. I'm pretty sure I've got to go and look, but it just seems like I've gone through that process for a number of sites, and I'm not paying a fee for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this covers that, and I'm also like, just as a consumer myself, I'm not sure why I would care at that point. I think maybe it does cover this. I think it even covers things like Twitter. So you would have to be able to delete your Twitter account from the app. I think that's what Apple's saying. Although I'm sort of less like, well, who cares if I have a subscription with Twitter account with Twitter that I never use? What do I care? I'm more worried about if you're going to keep charging me.
Well, but I think there's new security vectors now, or that things are taking advantage of. That if I have an account,
if I don't ever open the app, then how can that? What difference does it make if some server in South Dakota has some digits that remember me?
I'm not quite sure, but it just feels like it's one more loose end out there. It's like almost like a credit card that you don't use anymore, that you keep in the desk drawer. You don't use it, but it's still sitting there on your credit report. And so if it were to get hacked, or in the case of Twitter, if suddenly people were starting to post as ProView Jim 1, because you had a ProView Jim 1 account, that's not going to work out too well for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure being able to delete the account is going to solve that problem either.
Yeah, well, we're all kind of sloppy with some accounts we don't use anymore.
Well, no, if Twitter gets hacked, then, Twitter gets hacked.
I don't know.
What's that got to do with whether I have an account or not?
Well, if they've hacked an account that is yours or identifies as you, as opposed to just creating a flat out Jim Ray fake account. If they can leverage an account you already have, and that may or may not already have some credible messages on it. Maybe I'm making this up too much as I go.
I don't know.
Because I mean, I'm going back to when I had my Twitter account hacked. And, it suddenly got really uncomfortable because somebody was posting things to my audience as me that, happily were not terribly profane and terribly ugly. But, and I was able to, fortunately, to regain my control of my Twitter account. But, that was really uncomfortable for a little while.
Did you ever find out how that happened?
Yeah. And it was a combination, and I don't mind saying it here because it's a good lesson. It was a combination of some social engineering that I had nothing to do with, and then me not having turned on two-factor authentication on that particular account. I turned it on everywhere else, but I had not turned it on there. Thought I had not, and that would have protected me. So, that's why when I hear people talk about, two-factor or multi-factor authentication being such a pain, it's like, it's a simple, easy last line of defense, maybe a first line of defense.
To me, it's a first line of defense. The last line of defense is when you're having to work with Twitter to try and regain control over your own account.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, right. It's funny you say that, Jeff, because right now, almost every day, and I'm not sure what's happened, but I'm getting a security notification from Google on Gmail about an account ID that is very close to mine, but is not mine. And I have to believe it's, is somebody typed in something mistakenly. And now I'm getting all their, requests for verification and requests for confirmation and all that stuff. And of course, I'm not answering or responding to any of them. But that poor schmuck is out there, trying to get his account back. And because he did a typo, he can't get it back.
And that's an important life lesson for that person.
Amen.
There is.
Amen.
It hasn't happened much lately, but for a long time, I would get there are a number of James Rays around the world, and I have that address on Gmail, and I'd gotten notifications from somebody in Australia about their car being serviced, and somebody in England got a new phone, and I got all the here, welcome to your new phone service, and there's nothing you can do because I have no idea. And there's somebody in Canada that has a grandson with my name, and she keeps sending him money, and I get the notifications. And in that case, I even it did come with, and I actually emailed her, and I'm like, you seem really nice, and you should know that you're using this wrong email address. I'm not that person. And she was very nice and thanked me. And then a month later, she did it again.
And what'd you get?
But I don't think, I was just getting notifications. So
I thought you went out and bought something.
I wasn't getting the funds. I think that was correct. But somehow the email was, so I was getting notifications. I think maybe her grandson, maybe she had to call him on the phone and say, here's where this money is. Because as far as I know, I didn't have any access to any money. But I just was getting, hey, your grandma sent you, $50 or whatever.
I wish Brittany was here because I'm sure
Canadian dollars.
She has a lot of great stories about having the last name Smith.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the kind of.
I could go on for a ridiculously long time about the emails that I get.
Yeah.
And there's this guy, and his name is Jimmy.
Oh, you told
Gamet.
us the guy, the wrist.
No, that's a different guy.
Oh, okay.
That's a different guy. No, the email, one of the many email things that I get, it's to one of my Gmail accounts. And there's this guy named Jimmy Gamet who lives out like Arkansas or Tennessee. It's like southeastern United States. And he will not fix his email address. And it got to the point where for his truck when he would take his F-150 in for servicing, and he'd get the emails saying, "How was our service?" And I would cancel the emails, and then they'd start in again, which tells me he was giving them the email address again. Anyhow, I started responding to the service questionnaires. I give them bad ratings and tell them I was really disappointed because I was promised that there was going to be an open bar and it wasn't there. The dancing ladies were actually old men, and just on and on with all this stuff.
And still no response.
Yeah. And I still get emails for that guy all the time. And apparently now he has a friend that is traveling a lot. So he's forwarding his travel itineraries to this guy.
Oh, God.
Wow.
So I know where this other guy is flying to all the time now. Now, when I got sensitive information from his healthcare provider, and I think it might have been his attorney or someone else's attorney. It doesn't matter. I had an attorney thing also, but I did contact that company, and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, you're sending out this personal information, medical health records. I am not this guy." And they responded immediately.
Yeah, but they did. I have to tell you, there was an orthopedic surgeon here that used to spell his name with a Y instead of an I. And, and he was pretty prominent around here. And before email and all this stuff, I would get his phone calls constantly. And especially at, like 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning, you'd get those calls, and you try to explain to somebody. And so you hang up and they call you right back, and so I just finally started making appointments for him the next morning.
Hey, 3 Cheez-Its and call me in the morning.
Nice.
It's like then at least they would stop calling me at that time of morning. So
Okay.
I feel like I'm part of some family in France, because there's a matriarch in this family in France, and she sends out like her little newsletters and family photographs and stuff. And I don't know these people at all, but I get the group emails, and early on I sent her a message and said, "Hey, just so you know, you have the wrong email address." But she never took me off the list. So at that point, I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to live vicariously through this family in France, and they do some fun things, so it's okay."
Hey, we got one more to go.
In addition, so Jeff, you should start a new, I don't know, podcast or blog or whatever of,
my fake French
email.
life.
Yes.
We.
Jeff Gamet.
Not that kind of show.
Jeff Gamet. Yeah, good, Frank. Today's Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Slack. The MacVoices Slack is where you can connect with the members of the MacVoices Live panel and other MacVoices patrons. Get in on the discussions, agree or disagree with our opinions, and get your voice heard. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices. And thanks for supporting MacVoices. We have one more story to go, and this one's just for David Ginsburg, because David texted me last night at it wasn't that unreasonable an hour, saying he was drooling all over this. He couldn't wait to get his hand on it. It's the new RØDECaster 2. So this sort of fits in with the whole podcast theme of earlier in the discussion. So, David, what makes this so drool-worthy, and how quickly are you going to get yours?
Quickly, I'm not going to get mine, because after watching a lot of the social media influencers who, of course, have advanced units that they got to find out more about, that this unit, yeah, it's beautiful and all, but what you guys have been hearing my voice for years, I've had this RØDECaster Pro, the first one, for 3 years, and it sounds great. It works great. I got it nice and tweaked. But what is standing out on this one is the the toggle bars are all programmable now, so you can program them to any type of source you want. The other thing is the big thing that stood out was the fact of not that the gain on the headphones are like almost 72 dB. They said gain on it, so that's again, they haven't got the final specs yet, but that's something that is pretty awesome. The fact that it's going to make things sound even better. The fact that it has two USB-C outputs that you can hook to multiple devices, including external drive if you want to, as well as an Ethernet connection for putting it on the network.
Wi-Fi.
And Wi-Fi as well. Yeah. So it is a pretty slick device. They slimmed it down a little bit and made the buttons a little smaller, not so crazy. But I think of anything that stands out with this is it's going to appeal to not just podcasters. It's going to be content creators, for anybody that wants to edit music and do all kinds of other stuff beyond what this was doing. This one here is perfectly good. For the first RØDECaster Pro, I mean, it's at its end, but that's okay too, because it does what I need it to do, and that's to produce content with doing my podcast, and it has other things available to it as well. But yeah, I mean, it's got a ton of excitement right now. It's not supposed to ship until late June. And then they only raised the price $100 compared to what this one, it's $699. So, and that I'm thinking about what this device does. Not getting too crazy technical about it, is a lot of people may not be interested in that the hardcore of the audio part of it. It's something that it's going to appeal to everybody, and I think that's going to be the nice thing about what this new unit's going to do, and it's going to be a lot more expandable. Rode's going to be able to put more firmware on it more than before, and the sound's going to be pretty awesome. But we'll see how it goes. I think I've had this 3 years now. I was thinking about when I bought it. Yeah, 2019 I bought this. So, and it's had a good life and still continues to have a good life. And other influencers have said, they asked that question: Is it something that you really need to upgrade? I'm like, no, not really. I mean, this is not like an iPhone. Like I upgrade my iPhone every year. This device, I think, will probably be sufficient for many more years to come. But it all depends on what you do.
Dave,
you were still texting me that it was drool worthy.
Well, it is drool worthy. So, Dave,
the first impression,
the RØDECaster, you have the first gen. I look at that as a device that Rode made for podcasters, and over the past few years, they've looked at how people are using the device and decided, let's make the second gen for any content creators.
Right.
And so, yes, now you can still use it as your mixer board for your podcast. But let's say you're a musician and you want to plug a guitar and a keyboard into this and a microphone. Okay, you can do that. And it'll work equally as well for that music creator as it does for the podcaster and the live streamer.
So technically it becomes a DAW.
No, not really. I don't think, because it does have recording. It does micro SD card recording built into it, but I don't see it being an actual DAW. You still have to have the DAW do the editing after the fact. It has very limited, and this one doesn't have it all. And in fact, this one you could hook up music, a guitar or wherever, because it's got the 1/4 inch and the XLR connectors. So. That you could easily do it, but I don't think it has DAW. No.
Well, let's see, pre-orders today for $699 US.
Right.
So it's not an inexpensive piece of kit, but
this wasn't either. I mean, it's $100 less.
Oh no, yeah, but it offers an awful lot.
Oh, it does,
and it gives somebody that if they are seriously getting into podcasting, it gives them room to grow. And do some things that, I mean, like there's some things here that I really don't need. Would I like this? Absolutely, but I don't feel like I really need it at the moment. But then again, it's Rode, and so if I decide to expand things, it would be one of the first things I'd look at. I'm just looking here. It has the Revolution preamps. It has the Apex processing.
Apex processing is on this one. The Revolution amps are pretty phenomenal. You won't even need to have a cloud lifter. I mean, that's what I use for my mic. And they're saying, again, this isn't out in the wild yet. I want to see some serious reviews. I mean, the review units that were sent out, these influencers, the firmware isn't even released yet. And he was even showing it on the screen. Oh, this isn't ready yet. You can't use this. So it's basically sitting on his desk as being pretty. Interesting thing they also did add on the bottom of it. It actually has a Visa mount on the bottom, so you can actually put a Visa mount and mount it on a planet. Yeah, as well as it has a tripod mount on the bottom of the base, so you actually could have a stand and it's set up, on its own as the device sitting right in front of you. It's slightly smaller than the old one, but not by much. But again, it's all really of interest, but people are interested in with this type of device. I
wish they'd left the 3.5 millimeter jack on the front.
It's gone here now because now your output's not going to be on the jack on the front here anymore. It's all the ones on the back. But like I said, those 6 bars are now programmable, so you actually can program any of those things to be what they are. On this RØDECaster Pro, it's fixed to the 4 mics, and then you have Bluetooth and the TRS output, so you can use your iPhone as a means of using for doing an interview. But now they're programmable, that's what I said. I think that's the big thing where people were saying was the fact that this is going to be a lot more expandable in the future. Again, I think I'd rather wait and let it be out in the wild for a while. Let someone else test it, because it's again, it doesn't even have 1.0 firmware on it yet. So,
yeah. I'm just reading the fine print here, and it says that this is the Jeff Gamet Visa mount.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
Gamet.
It means that that one costs more.
It's imported. Okay.
Yeah, this one, this Visa mount works with this device and pretty much any other, unless it's wrapped in pants, and it doesn't work at all.
Right. What about with peanut butter?
Which Visa? No, never mind.
That's a totally different show.
Yeah. I think we're about to have
pants. What a combination!
2 different show in a lot of places. Guys, thank you. This has been fun, as always. We got through a number of stories, and as always, the conversation takes turns I didn't expect, but that was good. And I think somebody in our private chat room said Brittany derailed us early, but it was a really good derail. It was very interesting. So thank you, Britt, wherever you are. Hope to get you back on here sometime soon. So let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you, and we'll give them back the rest of their evening. So I'm going to reverse it as I've been doing recently. That puts Mr. Mark Fuccio up first. Mark, thanks for being here with you and your chart. Where can we find you?
Oh, yeah. I just pointed out that basically Spotify was down 65% over the last 12 months, whereas Sirius is up about 8 or 10%. But easiest way to find me is on Twitter at Mark Fuccio, MarkFuccio, all one word, and back to you.
Thank you, sir. Good to have you. Let's see. What's his name? Mr. Frank Petrie? Is that? Yeah, that's right. Mr. Frank Petrie.
Depends what country you're calling from. Yeah.
Petrie. Where can we find you, Mr. Petrie?
Well, I can be found on Twitter at fpetrie or Petrie. You can be found on Instagram at Frankie, PHRANKY. I have Facebook in my rearview mirror for 3 months, so don't even bother going there. I do a monthly column for Screencasts Online, and I occasionally post on my blog, either with a review or like today I published a op-ed about my take on Apple's and some other people we know their idea of we're helping people with accessibility, but we're not showing them how to use it. And I'm finding
that's a valid
disingenuous.
issue. Yeah.
Yep.
Very disingenuous. There's it's like there's a lot of people. I mean, I love the stuff they've done. They've obviously put the thought into it, what needs to be done. But I went and I looked at the little programs you could go to at my local Apple store. I could do iMovie. I can do GarageBand. I can do pages, I can do numbers, I can do keynote. Not a single thing about how I can use that accessibility if I'm handicapped. Nothing. And yet at the same time, they're selling Internet of Things there on the wall. And I would think that for accessibility, in my case in particular, I'm your core demographic. So why are you coming at me? I mean, there's a book publisher we all know who also I went and looked, and they actually had a book that had nothing to do with technology at all. But they had not a single book on the accessibility app. And that just really, that just angers me to no end.
So go to Frank's blog and leave a comment.
Oh yeah,
Let him know what you think.
I tried to be very kind about it today, but so I didn't name names, but I wasn't very happy about it. I saw something on YouTube and it just struck a nerve, and I went, yeah, this is kind of stupid. So I'm sorry, but I'm here every Tuesday night, and I want to thank you, Chuck, for allowing me into whoever's living room we're in. They're going to have to wash up once this is over, but
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
Gee, don't say that. Well, never mind. Jim Ray, thank you for being here. Get me out of this.
Okay, well, you can find me at provue.com, PROVUE.com, or on the Twitter, the pre-Elon Twitter, at ProVue Jim.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Orr, I hope we get to see you a lot more, as you develop your career now with Apple Insider. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
So right now I'm only on Twitter. My username is @AndrewOrNot. As you just mentioned, and I did at the beginning of the show, eventually in the future, you'll be able to find my writing on appleinsider.com.
Excellent.
When are we going to be on Andrew Orr Live?
Maybe someday.
There you
go. What was it? Jimmy Gamet? where can folks find you?
You can find me sitting in the Chevy dealership, waiting for my truck to finish getting detailed, and complaining about the fact that they don't have an open bar. But when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, jgamet on both. YouTube.com/jgamet for my occasional videos. And here on Tuesdays with you and all these awesome people. On Thursdays with Dave on In Touch with iOS. And then also on Thursdays, the Big Show, Fridays, the Mac Show, Context Machine with Brian Chaffin. And occasionally hanging out with all of my new friends and old friends, apparently, in France as we do all these family things.
Just go on the internet. You'll find them.
Yeah, you can find me. I am really looking forward to Frank's new column where he talks about his favorite movies. Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
That was a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah, but I pulled it together.
Okay, I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit.
I wonder where you were going with it, Jeff. But you got it. You got it.
You want to tell him where to go with it now, or
I'm going to tell him to relax. Don't do it.
Yeah, we'll save that for after dark. Last but absolutely not least, Mr. David Ginsburg, who is saving up his pennies for the new RØDECaster 2.
We'll see.
Where can we find you, Dave?
You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. You have my YouTube channel at youtube.com/DaveG65 here on Tuesday nights, also on the Mac Show on Fridays on the British Tech Network. And I'm on Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks so much, Chuck.
Thank you. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We are live in the YouTube chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV, and you should be too, hopefully next Tuesday. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com. Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by Truebill. Get control of your subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices.